Survival Hunter Day. Hello, what's going on, guys? Today we're talking about survival hunters. That's right, our little hunter friends got a little bit of a change in patch 4.3 and now they're up there doing some really solid DPS. In patch 4.2 we were very close to our marksman friends. They were doing pretty good, and Beast Mastery was only just below that. So now survival is very competitive, really nice and really up there. What was our big change? Our big change was lock and load. Lock and load was always a pain in the ass because you generally had too much focus, especially with a lot of haste. Lock and load with proc, you'd have a lot of focus, and you wanted to use them bad boys on our explosive shot. As we talked about in our 4.2 guide, which you can find here, go ahead and click that one. Explosive shot is our primary DPS ability. That's the one that smashes things in the face. Now, as we know, our explosive trap, kaboom, and our black arrow give us lock and load procs, which we then get free explosive shots. We like that, because explosive shot hits like a truck. That's right, smashes you right in the face. It puts four fingers right up your bum and says, hello. That's what we wanted to do. But then we had too much focus, and as we know, keeping focus is a waste of DPS. That focus should be used somewhere, so we had to use it on Arcane Shot. But some changes have occurred. We no longer dot clip, and now our lock and load doesn't really affect our explosive shot, our Arcane Shot at all. It doesn't do anything. We're just wasting it if we fire off an Arcane Shot. So what are we using the lock and load procs for? Explosive shots. Now, the trick to this is you can actually use the dot clipping mechanic to fire off explosive shots pretty much straight after each other. If you leave about a 0.1 second gap between them, you're going to get all 9 ticks of that explosive shot. And that's what it's all about. Spam, spam! A little bit of a drill finger on that keyboard and you're only going to get 9 full ticks of explosive shots. Even if you mess this up a little bit, you're still going to get 8 ticks out of it. Pretty much, pretty good. Big thumbs up and a bro fist. That's right. You can't really screw it up, guys, so you might as well be spamming off them explosive shots. Get them in there, get them out of the way, and get another lock and load proc ready to go, and start getting back to managing your focus, okay? That is the big change for us in patch 4.3, and really good. We didn't want to be wasting our lock and load procs, which can be used for a big, powerful explosive shot, on a big, little, piddly arcane shot. No, that's not what we wanted. We wanted to fire off explosive shots like an absolute gangster, and now we can do. Now, other things that have changed in patch 4.3 is our tier 13. Tier 13 is actually pretty accessible by anyone now through the raid finder. You might not have the top tier 13, but you can certainly have a version of tier 13. Now, we're back in the 4.2 guide that I did for you. We talked about our haste caps. Hunters have this very difficult time managing the amount of haste on their gear. And why is that? Well, we only have a certain amount of focus. Our survival hunter has enough focus to fire off a certain amount of explosive shots and arcane shots before that focus bar is empty again. How do we generate focus? We generate it with our Cobra shots, okay? Our Cobra shots are going to give us nice chunky focus, and in between that we need to make sure we've got enough focus to fire off our next explosive shot and our black arrow or explosive trap, whichever the case may be, and then start regenerating that focus. Spamming too much haste gives us too many Cobra shots to the point where we can't really spend it all, and our timing gets all fucked up and you're thinking to yourself, what's going on? Our primary goal as a survival hunter is one thing: keep that explosive shot on cooldown. If your explosive shot is not ticking away, getting ready to be fired again, and it's just sat there waiting to be fired and you haven't got the focus for it, that's a fuck up. That is a stabbing. It's right in the heart. You want to get rid of that habit. Get out of it. Our explosive shot should always be ticking round and round and round, guys. Use as many explosive shots as possible. You're going to see massive jumps in your DPS. That's where it comes from, okay, guys? So when we generate our focus using our haste, which affects our Cobra shot, remember, more haste, faster Cobra shots, more focus. Now, too much haste, we're firing off too many Cobra shots. We've got wasted focus. We're going to start spamming things like Arcane Shot, then try to fit in the explosive shot when it's ready. Then our focus kind of gets out of mingled. The worst thing is that we're firing off Cobra shots. Let's say we've got over 2,200 haste, which isn't that difficult to get these days. We're definitely going to be running into 4 Cobra shot territory. Now, 4 Cobra shots means that at some point during your 4th Cobra shot, you're going to have your explosive shot come off cooldown. And then it's going to sit there till you finish the cast of Cobra shot. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Priest, that's not a long time. We're talking about half a second, a couple of seconds. You magnify that shit. You zoom in it. You get your big man eye and you zoom in on that. And you realise that over the course of a 5-minute fight, a 7-minute fight, all these type of things, that this really adds up to a lot of missed explosive shots where you could be fitting in more big, hard-hitting DPS. This is what we talk about in our advanced guides, is taking it to the next level, pushing that extra couple of hundred DPS from your average player into your top player. Now, I'm no expert survival hunter, I'm really not, but I spoke to the people that I know about these things, and I've done my reading so I can bring this knowledge to you as best as I possibly can. So, breaking it down again, we had this haste problem, so we aimed for about 2,265 haste. That number specifically, at that point, that was our solid 3 Cobra shots, really happy, which gave us enough focus to make sure we were ready to fire that explosive shot the second it came off cooldown, and maybe even fit in a nice little arcane shot. If we're lucky, if we're feeling a little bit frisky, we could throw in that arcane shot. But now, we're definitely pushing into 4 Cobra shot territory, runs us into problems. Then our tier 13 bonus hits us like an absolute truck. It's like Optimus Prime running over your balls on Christmas Day while you're about to open your brand new mouse. Ah, damn you, Optimus Prime! What we want to do now is drop our haste even further to accommodate this new tier 13 bonus. Now, if you don't have your 4-piece tier 13, this doesn't apply to you. So you can be quiet for just a little minute and say, Preacher, this doesn't apply to me. I get that. I'm with you. I don't have the tier 13. So what? Doesn't matter. Eventually, we're probably going to get it. What we're aiming for now is around 757 haste. I know what you're thinking. I'm with you too. It's not even possible to get our haste that low. Realistically, it's not that possible. Our gear comes with haste as pretty much standard. But we're aiming for anything past 757 haste, considering we've got this tier 13 bonus, is not actually going to be that helpful to us, okay guys? That's what you're bearing in mind. Our mission, as always, our #1 mission as our survival hunter is to make sure we're firing explosive shot every single time that we possibly can. If we can fire off an explosive shot, then we should be. That is our main goal. That is our only mission. We are tunneling on that fact, is we need to do that. And when you accept that is your mission, your gameplay becomes a lot easier to start focusing on everything else around you. What do we talk about in advanced guides? It's not about tunneling your buttons. You should be past that now. You should understand that your mission is just to fire off those explosive shots. Mix in your black arrow whenever it's ready. Mix in your explosive trap if you're doing some AoE. Or get your kill shots in. Kill shot, got the glyph, 2 kill shots right in your face, stabbing to the heart, and then getting back to our normal rotation of making sure our explosive shot is off cooldown. Always getting back to this hint. We always go back, no matter what we're doing. Got massive trinket procs. Oh my god, I'm going to do loads of DPS, need to fire off cooldowns. That's fine. We still go back to our primary goal. Explosive shots right in the face. That's what the boss needs, that's what the boss wants, and it's what your guild wants you to do. That's how we're going to start separating ourselves as some big time DPS, alright guys? That's what it's all about. So, now looking for around 757 haste. Again, we can't get there. There's too much haste on gear, but what that does allow us to do is a little bit of reforged tinkering. That's right. We used to say, get as much haste as possible. Get us this 2,265 haste. If you've just hit level 85, that's what you want to be targeting at. Get your 2,265 haste. That's going to give you a nice, smooth, solid 3 Cobra shots. You're going to be lapping over the moon. Now we move into our advanced level where we've got our tier 13. We're doing a little bit of Raid Finder. We're living the dream. We've now got our 4-piece tier 13. We now want to drop our haste down because of that proc. We want to bring it down to about 757 haste. What we can then do is think, aha, Reforging has changed. It was all about crit and it was all about haste. Not anymore. Now what we can do is use that excess haste to either turn it into some more crit, because crit is yummy, or buffing our mastery through the roof. We want to get our mastery way up there now, because 70% of our damage benefits from mastery. You might not realise it's that much, but haste only affects things like auto shot, our energy regen, and our cobra shot. That's going to equal about 10-15% of your damage. Not that great really, but it's important because we need that focus in order to make sure we're doing our explosive shots and our black arrows and all that good jazz, okay? That's why the haste is important. So you're thinking, Preach, you just told us to do all this and that. Break it down for me really easily, guys. Let me explain. You've got your tier 13 4-piece. Get your haste down. Check your reforges. What's your haste? You want to get, don't go below 757, whatever you do, but you're never going to get there anyway. Believe me, you can't do it unless you do some really extreme, crazy gearing. What we're looking to do is get down as low as possible in our haste. We'll always be above 757 haste. And then start reforging nicely into our mastery. So let's say we've got an item with some crit and haste on it. We want to turn that haste into mastery. That is what we're aiming to do now. We're going to make sure we keep our hit. We're going to make sure we do all the basic stuff we discussed in our 4.2 guide. And now we're going to roll that bad sun out and get our mastery nice and high up there. Easy stuff, guys. And when you do this, you're going to start noticing some nice DPS increases. Once you follow the basics, making sure your explosive shot is on cooldown, making sure that you've got this nice amount of haste, and now buffing your mastery on top of that, boom, your damage starts to elevate and grow into something really tremendous, guys. Really, really important. Other stuff we need to talk about as a hunter, because we have the coolest ability known to man. We have Disengage. Disengage, an instant movement spell where we can fire ourselves a good 20 feet out of the way into a new position. Mastering Disengage is going to be the key to doing really tremendous DPS, because no matter what anybody tells you about following a rotation or doing that stuff, we have been telling you now for weeks the most key part of your DPS is making sure you can, 1, always fire, and 2, don't have to move anywhere near as often as you might have done in the past. Positioning. This is so important to increasing your DPS. There was a rule of thumb a long time ago, okay, between a lot of the top guild leaders and raid leaders in the world, that the best DPSs in the world, this is before haste, before we had things that affected how fast our spells casted, our top DPS in the world will always have more casts than the other guys. So just think about that for a second, guys. Think about what that actually means. You seem common sense. Well, of course the guy with high DPS casted more spells than I did. What you actually got to think yourself is, why did that happen? The boss fight lasted exactly the same amount of time. We were both doing something similar. We were both the same class. Haste doesn't exist, so it can't be a case of he's casting faster than me. That doesn't exist. That's not part of the game. So why is he getting more casts than me? Positioning. Always positioning. He stood in a place where he thought about before the fight started, and then he was able to fire off more spells. Simple as, he had to move less than you did. He had to cope with less things than you did. He was always making use of every second of possible cast time. This is so important for any ranged DPS class, and we're going to cover it more in our caster DPS time. But every second you are in combat, you should be casting something. Every single second. Every second that boss is engaged and you are not casting a spell, you are losing DPS. You might think, well, no, I'm not losing DPS because I follow the rotation completely. That's all well and good, but if you started 5 seconds later and you had to move for 5 seconds in the fight, and then at 5 seconds towards the end you had to do something else, you just lost 15 seconds of DPS time. 15 seconds just off those 3 moments. Now put it into a Cataclysm raid boss situation where we're moving all the damn time. We're moving constantly. There's all sorts of crap flying at our heads. We're ducking and diving like Neo from the Matrix, baby. And now we need to make sure that we reduce that as much as possible. Had to move 6 times, had to move 2 times, couldn't cast for this amount of time, couldn't cast for this amount of time. Very easy principles. So before a fight as a hunter, we can think 2 things. 1, where is my position? Where am I going to stand? Which is great for the boss. If we need to be bunched up, we need to be bunched up, balls. There's nothing we can do about that. The healers need us bunched up. Fine, no problem at all. But let's say we're now talking about a boss where we can stand pretty much wherever we want. We might have to do a target switch at some point. Let's take your Sarge with giant tentacles coming out of the ground. We're going to have to DPS X tentacle in Y location. Very easy thing to do. You know before the fight starts, especially if you're training a heroic fight, you will know you need to kill big tentacle sat over there. What are we doing at the beginning of the fight? We're getting in a position where, 1, we can be healed efficiently, because that is important, because a dead DPS that does no DPS, nothing will affect your DPS more than dying. So being in a position where you can't be healed is a fail. We then need to be able to move to where tentacle X is. I need to get over to Y position. I need to get there. I need to get there fast. Why? Because I don't want to lose DPS time while I'm travelling. I don't want to be trundling over with my troll with no shoes on. I don't want to get over there slowly. I don't want to be doing that. We have Disengage. We want to stand in a position where we can be healed and a Disengage while we're firing off something like an explosive shot. So we're actually DPSing in midair. We lose no DPS time. Think about that. Auto attack spells while we're moving don't cost us DPS. They're fine. We can do that. We can disengage quickly. So tentacles spawning, coming up out of the ground, explosive shot, disengaging across while firing the explosive shot. I'm in range of my next target, the tentacle. I have lost 0 DPS time, while somebody else in a more awkward position who didn't pre-plan this is going to have to spend, think of it, it's a giant room in there. A giant room in the Dragon Soul is going to take a little while to get over there. He's going to be losing DPS time all the way. He might be spamming something like Arcane Shot while he's moving over. These are all DPS losses, guys, and you have actually countered that by thinking about it beforehand. You know where you need to be, and more importantly, when that phase is over and we're back on the boss, another disengage straight back to our position while we're doing an instant cast. It can be an Arcane Shot, guys. Don't think it always has to be an explosive shot. It could be a Black Arrow, it could be It can be an explosive shot, or it can be an arcane shot. We've lost absolutely minimal amount of DPS time. So important to maximise every single global cooldown you possibly have access to. This will buff your DPS so much. Really good. Another question that's been asked by this various hunters as well as every DPS class in the game. Should I wait for cooldowns? You told us in the effective DPS cooldown guide, which is located here, that we can then buff our DPS by making sure our cooldowns line up nicely, such as our rapid fire and all that stuff. Rapid fire doesn't do a great deal for us as hunters because we have to wait for explosive shots to come off cooldown. Not brilliant, whatever. But if we've got unused trinkets and all that kind of stuff, we need to make sure we're getting the most out of those. So we want them to line up really nicely. So people have been saying to me, Preach, how long should I wait to fire off these DPS cooldowns? You shouldn't wait too long at all, especially if you're at risk, guys, of not being able to use that again. If you lose the use of the trinket, you've failed. That's a stabbing again, okay guys? Think about it this way. This fight is 6 minutes long, I've got a 2-minute trinket. Realistically, I can use that 3 times during this fight, okay? I can use it just as we start, just after the 2-minute mark, and just after the 4-minute mark. That gives me a little bit of leeway in time. I have about a minute to play with where I can still get the 3 uses out of this trinket. But that's a minute over the whole fight. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you've got this minute leeway, you need to bear that in mind. If you're waiting over that minute leeway, you're definitely going to risk the chance of only firing off that trinket 2 times. Now that's a waste of DPS. That's where our DPS fails. We want to certainly make sure we've got DPS trinkets for Bloodlust when we're firing all our extra damage off. When we've got Kill Shot up, Kill Shot obviously hits like an absolute steamroller. It wipes out Optimus Prime, it crushes him into little bits and moves on into absolute ball of Megatron territory. We like a bit of Megatron. So that's what it's all about, guys, using DPS cooldowns. Advanced Hunter play is all about controlling your haste and controlling your position. Please understand that you need to be thinking about these things all the time. A lot of fights have different phases where things change all the time. Target switches. Can you put that in a macro? Can you macro your target switch? Let's think about Spine and Deathwing Heroic. You should have a macro for targeting that tendon. Everything that has a DPS burn phase, you need to have a cooldown for. Again, thinking about Dragon Soul bosses, after certain phases they become vulnerable, take extra damage. You need to be taking full advantage of that by thinking beforehand, one, about your position, so when he's in this vulnerable phase, I can make sure I'm DPSing from the get-go. From the very millisecond I can DPS, I need to be doing it. I also need to make sure I've got my DPS cooldowns up. Because when he's vulnerable and he's taking double damage, triple damage, whatever the case may be, we are tunneling into that boss like an absolute drill, baby. We are drilling him right in the face. That's what's important about it, guys. That's me talking about it, Survival Hunters. Take it easy, people.